Hi, welcome to Crabs, Goats and Goats, episode 4. This one talking about the new moon in Capricorn this coming Wednesday, which is the 13th of January here in Barcelona at 6 a.m. If you're further west, it could be just in the 12th of January in the USA at midnight, more or less. But let's look at that one now. So if you can see here, the chart for Barcelona where I am, so that Sun and Moon in Capricorn, and we can see here really all the drama is here. Jupiter, Mercury and Saturn, Mercury having just gone past Jupiter separating from Saturn, and then Mars and Uranus in Taurus at square to Saturn. So Mars is beginning to square exactly Saturn on that day, the 13th on Wednesday, and it will then go on to square Jupiter and conjunct Uranus on later that week, later this week and early next week. But let's first of all have a look at the new moon in Capricorn, because this is conjunct Pluto. So that makes it very interesting, because whatever you've had going on last year that you think is defined by the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, so whatever house of your chart where you find Saturn and Pluto over the last 12 months, you can perhaps find something coming out of this now as the new moon comes up to this degree. You can find some way forward from all the last 12 months of Saturn-Pluto blockages. So whatever house of that chart you're in, there's likely to have been blocked areas, there likely to have been areas that have caused tension or at least some kind of negative energy, with Saturn being conjunct Pluto for a good, almost all of last year, even by orb, never mind by sign. So now this is a first idea that, okay, there's a way forward, there's something coming. And actually this makes me quite optimistic. I will never fail to be optimistic. I'm a Capricorn, but I have Venus and Mars in Sagittarius. This makes me some kind of optimistic that COVID will see some sort of turning point for the better at this point, because it's sort of connecting this degree and saying, okay, now we can fight. Look, a new moon like this is not major because it's not an eclipse. It's certainly being somewhat eclipsed itself by the drama going on in the fixed signs of Aquarius and Taurus. So let's not overplay it. On the other hand, this is a really nice opportunity for some of us who have stuff around that degree of Capricorn, maybe an ascendant or midheaven or descendant, to think, okay, maybe there's actually something good coming out of all this blockages that have been around me for the last 12 months. Maybe there's a way forward that I can see going now. And there could be a good deal of positivity for you if you have cardinal signs strong at the moment, compared obviously to the last 12 months. So this, I would say this new moon it's a little bit heavy because it's conjunct Pluto itself. And perhaps that will bury some of the stuff that it needs to work on. But if you reach down for this, if you look inside yourself and say, how is this house of my chart where Capricorn is, what do I need from this area of my life right now? And think of something. New moons are always useful to do this, nearly always useful to do this. So why not just look at this new moon as an opportunity to know more about that part of your chart, to think about how it can get better and not to avoid stuff that needs to be confronted, because that's what Pluto sometimes does, is bury and really create some fears around areas where we need to be brave. So there's no need to feel fear because Saturn is gone. Now is the time to take that Pluto energy of digging deep and trying to find the real truth, which is also Plutonian concepts, right? But let's have a look at the Aquarius and Taurus energy. So this is crazy. We've seen in the United States how this energy can play out. So it's kind of rebellious energy, but it's also a little bit kind of, it's heavy as well. So it wasn't any surprise to me that that insurrection didn't work out for the best for those involved when I looked at the planets on that day. And I was expecting some of that later, actually, because Mars wasn't quite into Aquarius when that happened, but people were talking about the 29th degree of Capricorn. I think we can also say that the square to Saturn is very much in place at that point anyway. Sorry, Mars was at the 29th degree of Aries, and that happened, not Capricorn. So Mars coming now to square Saturn, we really need to be careful, especially if you have energy around these first 10 degrees of the fixed signs. And anybody with a heavy fixed sign, or I shouldn't say heavy, but busy fixed sign energy, you should be careful. And just to clarify, the fixed signs are Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, and Aquarius. So if you have stuff around in these signs, or especially around the first 10 degrees of these signs, you perhaps need to be aware of pushing yourself too hard, of getting into fights you can't finish, or getting into fights where you can just get a slap, as we have seen. So that doesn't just mean physical stuff or about the kind of political stuff we've seen. It could be stuff to do with sport. It could be stuff with physical energy in a pure sense. It could be could be to do with being assertive. Taurus doesn't back down. Mars in Taurus doesn't back down once it's got up there. So if you're going to get up there, make sure you can back it up. Make sure if you go forward with something, you can back it up, because you will need to. This is not light energy. It's energy which stays around. It's going to be around us for a while. Mars will not be done with Uranus until 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and more by sign. So make sure that you can carry something through if you start it, because what you take on at this point could be, and this could also be in terms of workload, what you take on at this point, again, it depends if you have stuff around this part of the zodiac especially, but anyway, this energy is kind of universal because there's so many planets involved. You've got Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, all planets that visible from the Earth, and then Uranus involved as well. This is not just a few people going to be experiencing this energy. It's a lot of people because of the amount of planets involved. So there's an interestingly stubborn atmosphere around, which is going to run through this part of January. And then in February, we have the build-up of visible planets in Aquarius. And the new moon in Aquarius in mid-February is really quite something when we look at the amount of planets involved there. So what I would suggest is, it's a bit like last year's energy in a sense. Don't go there if you can't. If you don't know what you're doing, don't go there if you can't back it up. But if you're looking for something to happen, if you're looking for something that will make something resolve itself that's been stuck, well, now is quite a good time. Squares aren't all bad. They are motivating, and they need resolution. They don't wait. And Mars is involved, so that's going to be the case. Of course, it's square Saturn, so there will be blockages. It's not like everything will be over quickly. No, they won't. It'll take a while. So whatever you're starting to get involved with at this point, be careful. Whatever has been taking a long time to resolve, maybe these weeks will throw up some very interesting developments. So watch and see what happens before you make your next move is what I would say. Which signs benefit most from this energy? Well, maybe the Earth signs, in truth, because if you've got this Mars Uranus trining something in your chart, then maybe Taurus not so much, but Capricorn and Virgo might get some quite positive energy off this Mars in Taurus. And because of trine energy sometimes being weak, sometimes that's not easy to take advantage of, but because of the blockages over the last 12 months and the tension involved right now, well, Mars is there. It's there, and it's saying it needs to be used up. So for people with Capricorn and Virgo strong, this isn't all difficult. And I've certainly had a rush of energy since the new year, since the last week of December. And just before the 21st, I had a really rough moment. And then since then, all my stuff is Capricorn, Cancer in terms of Sun, Moon, Ascendant. So personally, I haven't felt this energy so roughly at the moment, but I'd be interested to hear your story, depending on where it is in your chart, so do let me know. So we're in Capricorn season. We're finishing Capricorn season, but I like to look at the music side of things when Venus enters a sign, and we've just seen Venus come into Capricorn in the last few days, and that will bring a bit of lightness to Capricorn, and bring a bit of fun, maybe. I mean, Venus in Capricorn is not the most fun, outgoing position for Venus in the zodiac, but if you have something that's contacting in Capricorn, maybe also it'll bring you a bit of contact with someone that can help you. Not someone can do you, someone who can help you. Maybe as well. You never know. Because Venus in Capricorn is a little bit contact based, is a little bit people. I get to know people that can help me a little bit, can help me progress. So Capricorn never stops thinking about the future, and people with Venus in Capricorn often make alliances that can bring them something in the future, and this is something to think about if you with Venus in Capricorn over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So who are the major musical players in music history with a sun in Capricorn? Okay, let's start with the most famous ones. Elvis Presley, David Bowie. Now, how are they connected? I'd say status. The status of Elvis Presley is huge. Now, if you look at the talent of Elvis Presley, he was a fantastic singer. Lots of different songwriters, lots of different types of songs. And a very good actor, actually, probably underrated, as maybe David Bowie is too, as an actor. Some people would argue with that. So there's this idea of being very important that both Elvis Presley and David Bowie have. In different ways. I mean, Elvis Presley crowned the king of pop, and David Bowie, perhaps on a more artistic level, is very seriously regarded as an artist by many people. So that's one thing, is that Capricorn has this status. It's kind of an authority, a natural authority that they project when they're involved in anything. And with famous people, you do find this with this sign. One thing that interests me a lot about the sign is that there's a lot of female artists going back. So if you look at Annie Lennox, Patti Smith, Sade, Eartha Kitt, who is fantastic. If you've never heard of Eartha Kitt, you need to. Janis Joplin, Françoise Hardy, the French chanteuse of the 60s, and in country music, Crystal Gayle, Mary J. Blige, not going back that far, but very important figure. Now, something about these women, all of them, where they're women, but in an industry where image for women is hugely important. And actually, if you look at them, hardly any of them principally sold themselves on that, or even involved their image too much with this as well. Aaliyah, also a Capricorn, I forgot to mention. Now, and they're damn good. I mean, they have something that's really strong, and it relies on their own volition, their own authenticity, which is a big word for Capricorn. Now, FKA Twigs, a modern example also of the same, and this same energy of being very authentic. If you listen to her last album, tremendous stuff. She really has found herself in the last album because of a difficult experience, which she's recently related on Twitter. I also forgot Dolly Parton. It doesn't end. The amount of female artists in this list who have just an amazing amount of strength in who they are, and they know who they are, right? Because there's a lot of female. I'm not going to say anything bad about anyone, but there's a lot of female artists where you would say, okay, well, yes, but they were sold. They were sold by a record company on the basis of image, probably not by their choice. I mean, actually, I saw a documentary yesterday on YouTube, which, a film on YouTube yesterday made by the original singer for the Black Eyed Peas. Let me just find her name so I don't just call her the original singer for the Black Eyed Peas. Just 1 second. Yeah, this is Kim Hill. Please seek this out if you're at all interested in either the Black Eyed Peas or how women are treated in the music industry, because it's absolutely brilliant. She just quit the Black Eyed Peas one day because they were asking her to basically grind on Will I Am on stage, and she said no. And so, I mean, she's not a Capricorn, let's make that clear. I'm not including her in the list of Capricorns, but I'm just using that as an example to illustrate how these Capricorn women really are completely and very strong. Like Patti Smith, extremely strong character. Eartha Kitt is a very strong character. Janis Joplin, really kind of probably a fiery Capricorn. I haven't looked at her chart, but a lot of energy in there. And yeah, so other musical Capricorns, who have we got? Well, by the way, I did a Spotify mix. Antastico is my Spotify handle. If you go on there, you can see a playlist of only music I like. I have to make that clear. I've left off plenty of important artists that I don't like, so you won't find any Elvis Presley on there, but that's not to disrespect Elvis Presley. He was obviously really important. So we've got Under the Sign. We've got Under the Sign. We've got Rod Stewart, kind of corporate Capricorn. Although his early stuff's great. John Legend, Donna Summer, Crystal Gayle, Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, interestingly. Grandmaster Flash, LL Cool J, MF Doom, rest in peace, MF Doom. Again, hugely authentic, really did his own thing as much as anybody in rap has ever done and got a hell of a long way with it. Didn't rest, kept going on the road, kept going to where he wanted to go. So you've got two types of Capricorns here, MF Doom, LL Cool J. LL Cool J's early stuff, he used to get a lot of flack from other rappers in the early days. I remember in the 80s, other rappers including little comments about LL Cool J, and then he came back in the 90s and he said, don't call it a comeback, and he was superb, absolutely superb. And actually I really liked his early stuff too. I think he's got an interesting upbringing actually, if you look at his story, a kind of Capricorn story of adversity and not making a big deal about it. And that's the thing about Capricorns. They don't tell you every 5 minutes about the rough time they've had. They don't tell you about the shit they've been through. They just get on with it. This is a Capricorn thing. So one of my favorite house producers, Frankie Knuckles, also a Capricorn. Some of the great early house records he made. Okay, so that's a run through and look at Capricorn as a music sign. Capricorn's known for being responsible, mature in youth. They have this reputation of being old when they're young, kind of thing, old heads on young shoulders. This does tend to lighten up as they get older. So, and they start to trust themselves more, because self-esteem is often an issue for younger Capricorns. Is often, the Saturn return is often a time for them when they begin to understand that they don't have to be so hard on themselves all the time, or that realization comes gradually. For me, I think I understood in my 30s that I believed in God, which I'd never really thought about as a definite thing before that, because my family is so completely unreligious, and I'm not religious myself. But I decided in my 30s that, yes, I think I believe in God, and I believe that we are connected to something, which if we connect to that thing and believe in God as love, we can become better people and make our worlds better as well. And that was a realization I had in my 30s. But Capricorns are prone to this kind of late development of coming out of their shell later on. They're known as responsible. They're known as ambitious. This takes many forms. Don't be confused by this. There are the typical Capricorns that just want to climb and climb in a material sense. They exist. But the goat is supposed to have been the sea goat originally. And there is a spiritual edge to a Capricorn. And if they contact it, this can be absolutely beautiful, because Capricorns treat people well generally, usually close to them, because they're responsible. They don't want to treat people in a way they wouldn't be treated. I'm not sure Jesus was really a Capricorn, but that idea of kind of reflecting what you want from a relationship from the way that you project a relationship yourself is a very Capricornian thing. Be careful if you are a Capricorn not to expect too much in that, and be ready to remember that everybody's different for a reason. And that is a problem with the negative side of Capricorn, is judgmentalism, criticism of themselves, criticisms of other people, high standards, which can be too high. There's a moment to be forgiving. This depends, because Capricorn is next to Sagittarius and Aquarius, and if you are a Capricorn, you might have Mercury and Venus in Sagittarius, for example, have a very different view of the world. Mercury and Venus is thinking, communicating. Venus is relationship. So it's not that all Capricorns are like this. Or even if you don't have stuff in that sign, Capricorns are able to learn and mature and become easier on themselves as they get older. So love to all the Capricorns out there. I think, you need to realize that this year can only be better than last year. I mean, in 9 out of 10 cases, if you're a Capricorn, this year can only be better than last year. And you're going to say 9 out of 10 people, that's probably going to be truthful. I'm not sure about that. We'll see about that, because there's quite a bit of action going on in other areas this year that wasn't happening last year. And some people are going to get new problems this year. But we'll look at that as the weeks go on. The next one I'm going to do will be for the next full moon, which is when the sun goes into Aquarius and the moon is in Leo in a couple of weeks' time. Look after yourselves. Thanks very much for watching. I really enjoyed it today for the first time. I've actually struggled to enjoy these, so I'm starting now to enjoy it. So if you watch the end, thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.